Go.
If you have a big
Okay, so mine was, of course, over the Holocaust, and my thesis was that the Holocaust was the most brutal massacre of the 20th century because Nazi Germany used many horrifying ways of torture. And we were talking about the torture and the brutal deaths and about how the Nazis just would come up with like the most horrible ways they could kill a person and just do it just for entertainment. And Hitler wanted to do this because he wanted the Jews to feel the pain and suffer of their deaths and didn't just want to die like peacefully. And the lack of humanity was like at an all-time high. And some of the popular ways of death was some of them were just overworked, and they were worked until their fingers were like to the bone, and they were like malnourished, didn't have enough like nutrition and stuff, and they didn't have enough health care, and a lot of them also starved because they weren't given any food, and most of the food they were given was like moldy and like disgusting, caused diseases and stuff because they just didn't care what they ate. And then other ones were shot because it was just an easy way to kill people, and they would do it in like mass groups, and they would just like throw them in like a ditch. They wouldn't even like keep track of the bodies that were dead, so a lot of people went like unnoticed. And the only problem with shooting the people was that they thought it was a waste of a bullet to shoot someone, so they just decided to like starve them. And the gas chamber or the gas fan was a big part of it also. And then medical experiments was the last thing that they did that was probably the most horrifying. An overview of the gas chambers is the gas chambers were used for the first time in 1939. It was used to kill the mentally insane people. And Hitler thought that these people were unworthy of life, and he would put like 20 to 40 people in a room at a time and then just kill them all at a time with carbon monoxide gas. And it was easy to do with the vans because they would just take the exhaust from the vans and just stick it into the car, make sure that no one could get out. And it was probably the most efficient way of achieving the final solution that Hitler wanted. And then some of the torture that happened was that the women were like really vulnerable to the Nazis' operations because they were like unique to a gender. And pregnant women were killed because they couldn't work or anything, and they're like kind of not lazy, but they just didn't do it. And beatings were also enforced on people who could not do work. Some women and men were forced to stand outside naked for hours during the winter just to entertain the Nazis and just for like embarrassment. And rape was just like super common for most of the women that did survive.
Yeah.
One Warsaw doctor claims that one of the continuously had heard of the rape things of Jewish girls in Warsaw, so that was like the main place where it happened. And death marches were also common, and they would take everyone and they would march them to a different camp or just somewhere else whenever one camp would get too full. And they could do it in like the middle of the winter, and it would be like super freezing outside. And if you just fell, you would just get walked on top of, like no one really stopped for you, or you would get shot. The biggest death marches were from 1944 to 1945 during the winter. 1 in 4 people died during these death marches, and sometimes before marches they would just mass murder people just to make it easier to keep them all in line. And one specific time of the biggest death march, 7,000 Jewish prisoners were shot, and 6,000 of them were women. They were told, they made it to the ocean after walking like miles and miles, and then they were just told to run out into the ocean, and either they drowned or they were shot. It was just also another game the Nazis would play. Camps that use gas chambers. Gas chambers were not used in all the concentration camps, besides the big ones that were used for mass murder. And they put gas chambers in these different concentration camps up here. And later on in the Holocaust, when the killings became more often, other camps were set up primarily for the use of gas chambers, so they were trying to kill more at a time. And in 1942, gas chambers began at the Belzig, Salvador, and Treblinka, and these were all in Poland, so Poland was a huge place where they had the gas chambers. Here's a picture, or some pictures of, like, over here there's like the starvation and stuff, and here it talks about how they would like shave their heads whenever they got there, and I'll talk more about that later. And here's some like trying to get warmth or something. This is more on the starvation, and the Nazis kind of thought it would be fun to see exactly how long a person can go without eating or drinking anything, and they just thought it was a good time, I guess. And then more on the shaving their heads, they would shave them as soon as they got into the camp, and they would take off their hair and any other feature that they had about them, so you didn't really have a name or a look, you were just a person that was tattooed, I mean, you were just the number that was on your arm. And then they were used as target practice, and were then killed whenever they were in camp, and they didn't survive for like a couple weeks. Here's some